All right, this is the copyright disclaimer. The copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
On this date in 1946, Maceo Snipes was murdered by a mob of white men in Butler, Georgia. He was a 37-year-old veteran who made the mistake of voting in an all-white election. Running in the election, former Georgia Governor Eugene Talmadge proclaimed, "The South loves the Negro in his place, but his place is at the back door." He won by receiving every vote except one. Members of the KKK determined Maceo Snipes had to be the lone vote and shot him at his home while having dinner with his mother. He survived a walk several miles to a hospital, as well as the hospital denying him a blood transfusion on account of them not having any black blood. Maceo passed away 2 days later on July 20th. Someone admitted to the murder but was let off on self-defense. I often say history wasn't very far away. My grandmother was born in 1946. To stay up on your hidden history, lock in with me.
In 1946, Maceo Snipes came home from World War II, a decorated black veteran, a man who fought for freedom overseas. And the first thing he did when he got home to Georgia, he voted. He was the only black person to vote in Taylor County's Democratic primary that year. The next day, a white man knocked on his door and shot him in the back. Snipes didn't die right away. He made it to the hospital, but doctors refused to give him a blood transfusion, claiming the black blood supply was empty. He bled to death, and no one was ever convicted. Maceo Snipes was murdered for doing what every citizen is supposed to do: vote. And while his killing happened in Georgia, its shockwaves hit Alabama veterans hard. Black soldiers across the South realized that if they didn't fight for justice at home, nobody would. Snipes' death helped spark the very movements that would later shake Alabama. His vote cost him everything.
Shalom. We are the Hebrew Israelites from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone, and we're here to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Ra'akakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the Great Millstone who rule well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and our fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like it to the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, we say Shalom.
Shalom.
All right. Together again today for another installment of our camp series called For Thy Violence Against Thy Brother Jacob. All right, is where we go into the brutal, treacherous, and relentless war that Esau Edom, the so-called white man who is the wicked, according to Malachi 1:4, has put on the children of Israel. And today's article is from EJI, which stands for Equality Justice Initiative. All right, we'll put a link to this article in a description box, and it's titled, On This Day, July 18th, 1946, Black Veteran Maceo Snipes fatally shot after voting in the Georgia primary. All right, this is 1946. So without further ado, we'll get into the opening scripture.
I got it. This is Obadiah, verse 10. It says, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever."
You can go ahead and take it, Barak.
Yep. So the violence, again, this is a situation where, for the violence that has happened all throughout America, we know that it started with so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, and we're at 200 and what at this time, like 224, 225.
225, 224, 25 somewhere. Yep.
Yeah, and we still and each one 200 225, and we've yet to duplicate a case. And as we speak currently, there are cases that are even happening, as we speak. The things that are happening, you have the Carmelo Anthony incident. We also, I'm just speaking in general. We have the most recent incident. What's the brother's name?
Nolan Wells.
Nolan Wells incident. Actually, and brother had posted some time ago. It was a young so-called black woman prior to Nolan, who was also abducted, and then another Jake that didn't even make the news, that actually was found strung up in a tree. And then you go back some time before that. This is like recent years, maybe about like within the last year. You had at a university, there were so-called, black strung up, which they said he, did it himself. And so these are just the. Go ahead.
No, I was saying those were shortly after the Charlie Kirk assassination in Mississippi. About 20 miles apart or something like that.
Yep. So the point of the matter is, we've suffered nothing but violence and oppression under the hands of Esau Edom, the so-called white man, and he's had a perpetual hatred for our people, going back all the way to the time of Jacob and Esau. And if you understand that story, how he said, when my father, roughly paraphrasing, when my father passed, then he would, deal with Jacob, which became Israel as a nation. And so we see them in today's time. Actually using their sword, but they also right now their deception and other things to keep us in the lowest state.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you guys can take it.
Yeah, I got that. I got that scripture for you in Genesis 27. Okay, this is the book of Genesis, chapter 27, beginning in verse 38, and it reads, "And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above." So Esau is going to have all the best places, all the riches. And you can see that right now. And we know that this occurred under Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. All right, roughly paraphrasing. Verse 40, he says, "And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt thou serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass that thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke off thy neck." All right. And it's the brother is talking about Jacob. All right. Verse 41. "And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, which is his mind, The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then I will slay my brother Jacob." All right. And the whole pretense behind that statement, if he slays Jacob, there is no 12 tribes of Israel. We don't exist this day. All right. But we know that that blessing was given to Jacob, in the spirit. So here we are today, and they're still trying to take us out because of that he sold his birthright. And then he lied on Jacob and said that, he took it from him. No, you sold it to him, Esau. All right. And that's, we get the term today called victim villain. He claims to be a victim of stuff when he was actually the one who caused it. All right. That was it.
Yeah, Elder, you got something?
Yeah, but Amon had his hand up before me, so Amon, you can go and get yours, and I'll go after you.
Real quick, this is Psalm chapter 7 and verse 16. It says, his mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealing shall come down upon his own pate. Which pate goes into what? That's also going to the head. So basically, simply put, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is getting ready to reap everything that he has sown, man. All the evil and ill will that he's committed towards the children of Israel, all right, the Lord's getting ready to return that upon him. And the scripture say what? Reward unto her double as she hath rewarded thee. See, so not only is the Lord getting ready to recompense, right, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man for everything that he's done unto us as a people, right, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, but hey, the Lord's going to do a double fold, man. And that was it to that.
Khan, I got Amos chapter 1 and verse 11. It says, thus said the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for the 4th I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. But I will send a fire upon Teman, which shall devour the palaces of Basra. So that being one of the transgressions of Esau is having that perpetual hatred, constantly and forever pursuing his brother Jacob, which it trickles down to the tribes. All right. So because of that, the Lord is gonna send a fire upon you. Teman being a grandson of Esau, but also being the representation of the entire race, of the Edomites. All right. So because of that, the Lord is gonna plead our cause, because ultimately, if you want to go into it, ultimately the Lord did give us into your hands, but what you've well exceeded, what was our punishment. Scripture talks about that, how you just basically just completely destroyed us as a people. So because of that, the Lord is not only gonna take your kingdom and do away with you, but he's gonna be an Israelite who does it. Your mortal enemy, the person that you hate to see, is going to be the one who do it. And like we brought this out at camp, like we brought out at camp a couple days ago, that really that deep rooted hatred that Esau has for Jake is really a stem from how that deep rooted hatred he has for the Most High. It's just like how you see somebody's child and you can't get to that person, so you get to their children. So because of Esau hating and jealous of the Most High and the power, he gets what? He's like, well, I can't touch him, so I'm gonna touch his children. And that's where it gets down to. Because when he sees a Jake, when he sees an Israelite, he understands deep down in his soul that that's what the Most High looks like. That's what the Lord is representing. All right, and it boils his blood, it boils his spirit. That ultimately he was rejected, and this person was chosen. That's why I always call him. I say, hey, listen, man, he was the first player hater. All right, he's been hating from the beginning. He sees something, he don't like it, and he try to act on it through his emotions or whatever. You brothers got it. That was all I had.
Hey, Elder, I just wanted to add to you right quick. You said when they can't get to the father, he goes after his children. Anybody who follows sports, you seeing this in real time, and we all saw it, where the way the media handles Shadur Sanders or the Deion Sanders.
Kind of enlighten me. What do they do? I'm not really familiar.
Oh man, they
I'm familiar with it.
Well, first of all, the dude was a #1 draft pick prospect. They dropped him all the way down to the 5th round on 44th draft, and they were when he was going through interviews and stuff, everybody was lying on the kid, and then it didn't match up to what was being on the field, and they still doing it. because of Deion Sanders. He was real good at what he did.
Well,
And
it,
they go ahead.
oh, Shalak, I thought you was finished. Shalak, I was gonna say though, the story behind Dion is more so on the fact that Esau was the first Jake athlete to really tell Esau it's gonna be my way or the highway. How
Yeah,
he structured his contracts and stuff like that. And you know how Esau is, a bold Jake to stand up for himself and demand something for his worth. Esau don't like that. Esau wants you to be docile and shit. So, and Deion Sanders carried that personality throughout his whole life, pretty much. And um, he never folded throughout his whole career, and even right now. And so that's why I take it out on Shador Sanders. You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, well, we can't get to Dion, well, we'll get to Shador. Because like Shador was the top quarterback in the NCAA football realm, and everybody know the top quarterback is usually at least the top 2 or 3 picks in the NFL draft. And his man
hmm
went to the 7th round in the 104 pick, I think, or the fifth round,
fifth, fifth round, fifth
fifth
round. Yeah.
round, 104 pick, which that was spiritual in itself. You know what I mean? But I had a precept I'm gonna bring out, kind of going on with the Elder Gabario point and the topic of the video. It says Ezekiel 35 and verse 5. It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. And what Elder Gabar brought out, the end was one. You know that perpetual hatred is still there. You know, we spoke about it at the camp too, Elder Gabar. About how Esau hates us. And when you be around Esau, you can feel that tension or hatred. Which I don't know about any of you Akim or you Elder, but I was raised to hate Esau. You know what I'm saying? I was
You know,
raised to hate
I was the
Esau,
same way.
and
My granddad, well, I wasn't raised to hate him, but my granddad, he was like big on don't take no shit from him and don't ever think that you're lesser than
hmm
them. He was like, on that equal mentality, but through the spirit, he was really kind of like, if you can read between the lines, he was really like, hey, like you really better, but he was never, granddad, my dad's dad, he was never with that, don't think yourself as lesser. Is it because he grew up through that whole Jim Crow era. He remember being hated. Matter of fact, my granddad was born in the 20s, so shit. He probably remember Black Wall Street and well, probably don't remember, but he went through it. You got it, bro.
God, yeah, yeah, it was beautiful because we wasn't allowed to play with them, and I was a part of racist events growing up between St. Joe and even my mother. My mother got soft on me as she got older. Here's a woman. But man, she tell that you don't go over there, fool. Them white crackers. They gonna do something to you. They gonna try to do something to you and try to lock you up and all that or kill you. You know what I mean? So, and you talking about the fucking 90s. So let alone way back during the elders, granddad time. You know what I'm saying? It was way worse. You know what I'm saying? But I to this day I held to that, and that's why I didn't date or fuck with Edomite women until I got older. You know what I mean? But yeah, the perpetual hatred is still there. You know what I mean? Because even during my lifetime, as I was elementary, junior high, high school, I think early high school, they would have the Ku Klux Klan come in St. Joe, and then they would try to exercise, freedom of speech and freedom to assemble, a peaceful assembly, and they would try to cross the bridges or the one main bridge from St. Joe downtown to Ben Harbor downtown, and they would never allow it because Jake would be at the bridge with guns and shit and bats and all kind of shit, waiting on Esau to cross over in the bridge. So I remember that vividly. You know what I mean? And there's even a book about the hatred. You know what I mean? So I experienced it firsthand. How many people end up fucking getting killed, and they found the goddamn lake in Lake Michigan. You know, Then it's always a cold case, none never solved. You know what I mean? Verse 6 it says, "Therefore, as I live, said the Lord of power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Said thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee." And I was watching the video, Neon, mind you, I was just like probably like an hour and some change ago. I was just waking up. I was watching the video about how Jake is starting to not take shit from Esau no more. It was a video clip of and I'll put in the chat. I'll put in the chat a little later. But it was talking about how it says so-called blacks are not taking any more disrespect and violence from white people. You know, and I was like, yeah, about fucking time, man. And I was thinking about Genesis 49. Judah is a old lion, it's couched, who should rouse him up. You know what I mean? But you brothers got it.
Yeah, man. Because to back you up, man. If Judah wanted to, man, they could really fuck up Esau. Now, ultimately, we understand, according to the curses, that it's the Lord Yahweh Bashmi Shai who took the might out of our hands. So, ultimately, we don't have the strength to do nothing. But the Lord is really, holding, our people back. Because, it's gonna come a point in time. Hey, man, the Israelite man can only take so fucking much, man. It's gonna be that one thing to where, basically the Lord, he stopped holding Judah back. And shit, man, hey, Judah gonna put a belt to ass.
Um,
I gotta go real quick. You can still keep going. If you call out for me, I'm gonna step away from the computer a bit. No more than like 10 minutes.
okay. You got
Yerami, you
it.
got something?
This is the land back on some points our dog made. So this is Sirach chapter 12 and verse 10. It says, "Never trust thine enemy, for like his iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away." All right, because Esau Edom is always going to show his horns, man. All right, Esau Edom is always going to show his true intentions, man. All right, and Jake is like slowly waking up to realizing that there's no uh, pure intention with Esau Edom, man, because Jake is starting to notice that it's an ongoing pattern with how this devil treats our people, man. All right, to how he set the society up for Jake to fail. The constant uh, uh, stories on the news, incidents, of our people being put to death. All right, by the so-called white man. All right, even up until this day. All right, there's no pure intention with this damn devil, man. All right.
Uh,
Okay.
we get with the article.
Yep. That's what I do. All right. It says, on July 18, 1946, a white mob shot a 37-year-old black veteran named Maceo Snipes at his home in Butler, Georgia. A day earlier, Mr. Snipes had exercised his constitutional right to vote in the Georgia Democratic primary, becoming the only black man to vote in the election in Taylor County. For this, he was targeted and lynched. Mr. Snipes had served in the U.S. Army for 2.5 years during World War II, and after receiving an honorable discharge, had returned home to Taylor County, Georgia, to work as a sharecropper with his mother. Mr. Snipes' family later recalled that he had received threats from the Ku Klux Klan in the days leading up to the election, but he still bravely went to vote in the gubernatorial primary on July 17, 1946. And if you know the scriptures, that's something that Jake is not supposed to be involved in voting. I think that's Exodus 17, 15. Let me grab it.
Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy 17. Deuteronomy 17, 15.
Yeah, because to back you up, pops. Even when you go into that into the etymology for the word vote, it literally goes into, making a vow.
Yep.
So ultimately it breaks down to you, serving, another entity outside of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua,
Hmm.
and what the Lord said, we are not to have any other gods before him.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, like,
I was gonna say it's something how when you notice a pattern that they create causes to have our people fight for that's actually contrary to the Lord as well. So
hmm.
that's another way for them to also accuse. Like for
Yep.
example, they do that. Today modern time, you got the Black Lives Matter. They had that movement that they pushed, and then you see who actually was in the forefront. Was a Amalekite. You know,
Yep.
uh, that was in the forefront of pushing these certain things. You had the civil rights movement, that you find out who was in the forefront of that, which was started by the Amalekites. So their true intent, like I said, is the tender mercies. Their tender mercies are even cruel. So it's
Yep.
like they put these things out there, and then our people's like, oh, okay, so they jump on there to fight, and yet they are not understanding that when you really look at the scope of things, that they're actually having you fight against something that's against the law, like
Uh, yeah. I was gonna say, just expound a little bit to what Amon said about going into the word vote in the Edamon online. It goes to a vow unto a God. So, and just like you followed up and said, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." That's really what it goes into. All right.
Yeah,
This.
many customs of the nations. The customs of the nations are everything goes back to some form of a god,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then of course, and like I said, I keep coming back to saying modern time because now they try to make it like these things are innocent, but everything in which you do has a spirit connected to it, you know.
Hmm.
And of course, when you are following these things, whether it be Esau, Edom, the Elamites, the Moabites, the so-called Chinese, Japanese, and the everything in which they do falls back to some form of a god. That's why, going back to your point, the Lord said, "Have no other gods before me." It talks about like how we are to worship, how we are to move. Not trusting the enemy, because we know that this particular enemy is very deceitful in how he moves and very crafty. He's the most crafty. He has that spirit, of the serpent. The same spirit. He's the most crafty, most subtle of all the earth. You know, and
God.
so following his ways or attaching to him in some form or fashion, you're gonna get the bad end of the stick,
God.
or the short end. Excuse me, the short end of the stick.
God.
You got it.
All right, this is book of Deuteronomy, chapter 17, verse 15, and it reads, "Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom Yahweh thy power shall choose." All right. And the king, at that time is another word for, a ruler. All right. It says, "Thou shalt choose one from among thy brethren, shalt thou set king over thee, that thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother." Okay.
Hey,
And
real quick.
go ahead.
Um, and the thought is, just think again, bringing it back to today. Just within a couple, like last year, Trump barely been in office, and uh, the Northern Kingdom, they had them pushed to the forefront. Vote for Donald Trump. They was making songs and all kind of things for him. And as soon as he got into office, barely, roughly 20 days in, he was already deporting the very people who were supporting him. So
Yep.
that's an example in what we're talking about, how they're very deceptive um, to our people, and how the brother said never trust them, because that
Yep.
was a good example of how our people were singing his praises. They were going to the lines, voting for him, and he had him on stage speaking and crying and all kind of things for him. And then, not even 20 days within the office, um, he was deporting them using ICE, and then just recently, a so-called Hispanic Mexican was shot and unalived, which comes to find out that he wasn't even the intended target that they were looking
Yep.
for.
Yep. Yep. Correct. Yep. Now, I will say on the flip side of that, in prior years, um, you had um, everybody voting for. You had Jake Southern Kingdom voting for Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, who are strangers, and that was made clear, you know, of other nations. All right, because Jake has to know by now, they are not going to let one of us, come within be elected to that office or come within a heartbeat of being in that office. And those two were strangers. They were set up. The woman, if you notice, all of those top women got Amalekite husbands. The judge, Kamala Harris. What's her name? Ketanji Brown. Yeah, it is not in our favor. They're always in the background, twisting stuff. Two sets of heathens. All right.
God, we got a couple hands up.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that because one thing is when a person is of your nation, they're gonna look out for his nation. Who was that? That what was that fucking Hamite name is? Mandela, Nelson Mandela. He was in an interview and said, and a person had asked him. He said, "Well, what are you gonna do about the everyday black man who suffers in America?" And he had said this on the interview. He said, I'm trying to exactly remember how he worded it. I think he said, I forgot exactly how he worded it, but in so many words, he has said, I'm for the African in the African nation. Those people has their own problems to worry about. So if Esau being how he tries to gather all, if you're from Africa, but even them Hamites know that we're not even those people. So you see, so whatever person is in leadership, whoever person's in role, they're gonna have the best interest for their people. No matter this whole America tries to put like, well, we're all people, we're all this, we're all that. No, we're not. Nowhere. They set that notion up to get Jake pacified. And then what they like you said, bro. They set Barack Obama as a face for Jake, but really, to be honest, and that's why the memes going. Oh, we had Barack Obama. Yeah, what the fuck did he do though? he literally went down in history as not doing nothing. You can't name not one thing that this guy did besides what the Obama Health Care Act, which is fucking horrible.
That's gone now.
Oh, it's gone. Yeah. It left.
Yeah.
Oh, see, so yeah, back to what I was saying. Now he did nothing. He did nothing at all.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but Esau knows. Slack
No, he did go down as the first gay president because of that act in 2016.
Oh yeah. The marriage. Yep.
The marriage act. He passed it. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. See, so what he was. So he had an agenda that he had to follow. So but Esau does know if Jake will get pacified if they see a face, or if they see someone that looks like them and sorts of power. So what does Esau do? Esau sets up puppets. Really, they look like Jake, but what do they do? They're still pushing his agenda. They're still pushing things that he wants to do. All right. And Esau knows this. Esau, he studied us to a T. He know Jake wants to see other people that looks like him in suits of power. But it's all really to push his agenda, and that's all I got to say. You got it hard up.
Mm-hmm.
What's up?
Don?
I got precept. I got precept, bro. This is Sirach 13:4. It says, "If thou be for his profit, he will use thee; but if thou have nothing, he will forsake thee." And that goes right along with y'all point, which I was making. He'll use Jake for a time, and then when he don't got no need of you, he'll discard you. And then
You was
point I was
breaking
gonna
up.
make
You was
about
breaking up a little bit, brother.
can you hear me now?
Con, you got it.
Can you hear me now? No, I was saying that Esau he'll use Jake and then he'll discard Jake when he have no use for you. And one thing about us is we have a natural proclivity to, like you said, do for our own people. And yeah, Mandela did make that statement because why? There's always been tension and wars between us, and they know it. And one thing about it is they don't want Jake to know that they're different because they push that whole African narrative on Jake. You know, they want to push, oh, you African American, oh bullshit. But then you look at the tensions between us and the history between us. There's always been war amongst the Hamites and the Israelites, man. You know?
Shit, bro. If you want to be really blunt, shit. Besides the Edomites, they would be a fucking runner up as our worst mortal enemy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, besides Esau, besides the deep-rooted hatred between Jacob and Esau, shit, the Philistines ain't too far away. The fucking Hamites, they were right there. We were going back and forth with them just as much as we was with Esau.
Mm-hmm.
So you read about the accounts in Joshua and Judges. Shit, we was neck and neck with them.
Yep.
Hey, Slacky, Elder. What you done?
Yeah, no, you got it, bro.
That's Slacky. But even the first major captivity for the Israelites, Egypt. You know? And that right there. So like you were saying, Elder, outside of Esau, you know,
Shit,
we
brother,
really,
I'm gonna do you one better. I'm
Mhm.
gonna go even farther. Nimrod and the Tower of Babel.
Yep, time.
Judge is also elder.
Say it again. What did you say?
I said even the book of Judges, you know, the Philistines, and then you got with Samson. He fought against the Philistines.
Yeah,
Remember, he was oppressing us at the time.
we was always neck and neck with them damn filthy heathens. That's why King David called them what, uncircumcised dogs. We always had bywords for them filthy animals. You know what's crazy? I hate them now. When you see them, you know when you see them, they look like a big ooga booga walking big ass. I did. I did that feel like an Edomite. Fucking wide ass nose, big ass lips, tall, lanky, no sauce seasoning, having ashy feet having. They just be out. You can smell them a mile. You can smell them before you see them. I hate Hannamites, man. Especially the ones who try to be fucking look like they got like you. Just whatever, man. Y'all got it.
Just to back y'all up, this is the book of Exodus, chapter 11, verse 7. It says, "But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast." And it's talking about
you got it.
It's talking about them heathens talking shit about us. All right. It says that ye may know that how Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. All right. And just going to your point, what you said earlier about us looking like them, you know, there's a definite record of that in the scriptures. You know, Joseph and Mary fled to Egypt because they could hide, you know, amongst them. Paul was mistaken for an Egyptian. All right. So, yeah, there's definitely a difference between us, as you was making that point, Elder.
Yeah, they even told Pharaoh what the Egyptian woman is not like the Israelite woman, for they are lively.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep.
And when you look up that word lively, it goes back to the word kaya, which means what? With spirit. They're lively. They're energized. You know, just to show you that there's a difference between what the Israelites. Really, to be honest, there's a difference between the Israelites and the heathen alone. You can really point out a heathen in an Israelite. You know, and we don't even really have. You know, we got low level spiritual powers right now. You know, just the fact that you can actually point it out, just to show you how evident the difference is between us. You know, you got it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm back to the article now. All right.
But also,
It says,
Slakia, if I could say this too, but that also shows you how out of touch Jake is with the spirit, because they'll look at a heathen, a so-called white person, so-called Japanese, a so-called Arab or whatever. He got sauce, he got flavor, he can do certain things like we do, and they'll be saying, "Man, this white boy cool, man, hey, that Chinese man, hey, they cool, man, I like them." You know, not knowing that that's actually an Israelite. They really vibe with another Israelite. They just don't have the spirituality to see that that's an Israelite. You know, they like the flavor, the sauce, the style that person come with, and then they try to put on the heathen. Oh no, you want to fuck them? You want to fuck with them Chinese people? They know kung fu. They know how to do all that. No, nigga, that was Israelites doing that. You just don't know that it was Israelites. Oh no, man. So some of these white boys know how to box. Some of these white boys know how to dance and sing too. Like, no, dog, those are Israelites. You just don't have the spirituality to see that that's an Israelite. But we can see it a mile away. Listen, bro, I don't give the heathen no credit. All right, if a heathen came up with something or a heathen did something that's not out of the norm or kind of peculiar, I was like, bro, that's an Israelite. Ain't no fucking heathen doing that. You got it, bro. That's all I want to say.
all right. Back to the article, and like I said, we'll put a link to this article in the description box. It says, a day after the primary, a mob of white men, including a white veteran named Edward Williamson, arrived at Mr. Snipes' grandfather's house in a pickup truck and called out Mr. Snipes' name. Mr. Snipes got up from the table where he was eating dinner with his mother and went outside to see who was there, only to be shot multiple times at his own front door. The truck of men then drove away. Says severely wounded and assisted by his mother, Mr. Snipes walked for several miles searching for help before he was finally transported to a hospital in Butler and admitted for care. According to his family, the hospital's segregation policies delayed Mr. Snipes' treatment for several hours. Relatives later recounted that a doctor told them Mr. Snipes urgently needed a blood transfusion, but could not get one because the hospital did not have any black blood to use. 2 days later, on July 20th, 1946, Mr. Snipes died. Says by assertively exercising his constitutional right to vote, Mr. Snipes had become a target for white people committed to maintaining white supremacy and racial hierarchy. Mr. Snipes' veteran status also added to his vulnerability. White people intent on maintaining Jim Crow and racial subjugation of black people worried that military service would make black men leaders in the fight for racial equality at home, and frequently targeted black veterans returning from World War II with racial violence for wearing their uniforms in public, asserting their rights or denouncing inequality.
Real
Black
quick,
veteran, go ahead.
you know how Genesis it tells you, two manner of people are in thy womb, and one people shall be stronger than the other. That is an example, even in that story, how Jake is much stronger. He was shot. They rode up on him. He was shot. He walked for miles with his mom in order to get help. Then he finally get to the hospital. He still was alive, strong enough to live, and he goes into the hospital. They didn't have black blood for him, which that's a whole nother. We've gone into that. And then finally he succumbed to his injuries and he dies.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to put that out there. It just shows you the strength in which, even in our ignorance or not knowing of Yahweh Shema Shai, our people, he still shows that he's with our people, that our spirit, is more connected to the Heavenly Father and His Son Yahweh Shai than any other nation.
Yeah.
You got
know
it.
what, Barack? Is I was thinking, when you read that article and basically the hospital didn't have any black blood to use. That ain't sound right, because Lord willing, what I'm saying is making sense. But during this period and prior to that, there was a lot of experimentation done on Jake. So with all the experiments and testings, being done on Jake and things of that nature, you mean to tell me the hospital had absolutely no black blood to use?
Yep. Tuskegee experiment was going on at this time.
Hardab, you got it.
Yeah.
This is the book of Sirach 26 and verse 28. There be two things that grieve my heart, and the third making me angry: a man of war that suffer poverty, and men of understanding that are not set by, and one that returneth from righteousness to sin. The Lord prepares such an one for the sword. Now let's start with the man we talking about, the Jake. He's a man of war. First of all, he's not supposed to be in poverty. Let's start right there. And let's show you that, our people go off by joining this man military. You know what I'm saying? But guess what? That's their mindset at that time. Well, let me join the military so I can try to create a better life for myself. Let me try to create a better situation for my family. And that's the wrong thing to do because first of all, it's for your enemy. And then on top of that, your ass get back, you still a nigga. Or a spick or a wetback. How which one he gonna categorize you? So you ain't shit to this man, no matter how you look at it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Jake continuously to this day. You know what I'm saying? Well, back then it was more outward. You can come, it's black, Latino, Native American. They go serve in the Marines, the Army, and they had a separate Air Force. You couldn't be in the white man's Air Force. He had a nigga and stick Air Force for your ass. That's how you know what I mean? But then
Yep.
who come to say today? Who come to say today? Who the main vital? I talking about the World War II shit and World War One. The main key thing in all this thing is the sons of the Most High was involved in it. They was the best infantry, the best black ops. And then you come back to America and your ass in poverty,
Yeah.
or or you get deported.
Yeah.
Or
So
even
it's the
even
same.
when they Salaki, just real quick to your point, like even when it was the native Indians that they were going against, they couldn't even really deal with them, but it was Jake that they brought into the mix. I believe what the Buffalo Soldiers, you know,
Yeah,
to help take them down.
yeah. It's called a Buffalo Soldier. I knew like a handful of them guys. It's only one living that I know that I grew up around. Only one of them living is hundreds, like 103, like that, 104. But yeah, Mr. Booth. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, he's from that. He's from the whole era. World War II, Vietnam. You know what I'm saying? I told you brother about that. I don't know if you remember. He got like 50 some kids, 20 some, like 20 some, almost 30 kids cross seas, and 20 some over here in America. Well, this man, he was riding his bike. You know what I'm saying? Until he was like down there like mid 90s. But the point I want to make is, him and Mr. Ruther told me about the Buffalo Soldiers, what they used to do, especially Mr. Ruther. And they basically Judites, special ops Judites that they was used to catch Native Americans trying to leave the reservation. You know what I'm saying? That's what even those rangers, those state rangers, it was part of that shit too, man. They use
Mhm.
basically, your own brethren to come against you. A lot of this whole thing about us being invaded, you know what I mean, over here was done like that too. You know what I'm saying? Use, Judah against Gad, Gad against Judah, vice versa, and all that stuff. And that's why they was mad at the alliance that Judah and Reuben, we had. You know what I'm saying? And they want that same alliance because they know when the tribes get together, they be more powerful. But with Gad, they were to take out a lot of Gadites. You know what I'm saying? Due to you know what I'm saying, the curses, and then it was just time for Esau to rule as well. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Uh,
Back to the article.
yep. Yep.
Because
Continuing
ain't
the
no
article.
it's like ain't no fucking resources on the reservation. People. I'm glad I'm born in the cities or the country part, whatever. Because outside that, had I been raised traditionally, like on the reservation and some shit, you get access to no clean nothing. It's a piece of land that ain't really fertile because Esau destroyed it. You know what I'm saying? He destroyed it and took stole all the the goodly minerals and nutrients from the land by what? Keep on planting and doing things. You know what I'm saying? Then guess what? They'll put you on that land or this show treaty land, so-called treaty land, and then it's nothing to really grow or have anything to prosper off of. So a lot of times, Gad will try to come to the cities because that's where the resources was at.
All right. Back to the article. Says black veterans often face horrible discrimination, mistreatment, and even murder at the hands of white Americans determined to suppress their potential activism. Says during the era of racial terror, lynching was meant to send a message of domination and to instill fear within the black community. After threats of further attacks, Mr. Snipes' body was buried in an unmarked grave, and several members of his family fled with their young children to Ohio.
Hey,
Says when
and because I know the elder had posted in the chat, Elder Malcolm had mentioned it. That movie 24 gives an example of that. You know, of the soldiers who were, just they were soldiers, but then yet when they came in amongst, the civilians, they were treated just like an ordinary nigga.
mm-hmm. All right.
And then of course we're watching that documentary with Sid and Bull, which going back to Hardab's point, how they tried to push them into these reservoirs, and then of course then they start to fight back, because they didn't the laws or the agreements that they set, they didn't even keep, and then they set laws for, the people to, for white America, so called, to actually go and settle in land that was already occupied by our people, causing more conflict and strife.
Uh,
You got it.
okay. Back to the article. It says when local authorities investigated Mr. Snipes' shooting, Edward Williamson admitted to killing him, but claimed Mr. Snipes had pulled a knife on him when he went to the Snipes' home to collect a debt. Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, we know how that is. Says a member of a prominent white family in Taylor County, Mr. Williamson's story was believed at face value, despite contrary assertions in Mr. Snipes' deathbed statement and his mother's witness testimony. The coroner's jury ultimately ruled that the shooting had been in self-defense, and no one was ever held accountable for Mr. Snipes' death. Between the end of Reconstruction and the years following World War II, thousands of black veterans were accosted, assaulted, and attacked, and many were lynched. Brave black men and women like Maceo Snipes risked their lives to defend this country's freedom, only to have their own freedom denied and threatened, or their lives tragically taken because of racial bigotry. And that concludes the article.
If I may, real quick, they'll lynch your ass in the military. They don't tell you about that. They'll never publish that. They lynch black, Hispanic, and Native Americans in the military.
Well, I remember this was a story that my pops, had told me about when he was fighting in the Vietnam War. He pretty much it was some uh, Edomites getting ready to grape like a young girl, a woman, a wife, and they had their husband was there. He said he himself and a couple other guys had stopped it. Pretty much was like in the mix, and they pretty much told him, they saying without saying, watch your back or watch your head, or it was a term that they stated, which meant that they could be fighting and they could be in the front, but because of what they did, they can practically get a bullet to the back of the head. And then they
And the
just
war,
pretty much, huh?
no, I was just going to confirm that Vietnam veteran just told me that like what, a week and a half ago.
See, so that's the spirit, because my father told me this a long, he was telling me a different story. I would ask him questions and stuff like that about his experiences there, and that was one that he held on to. You know, they were gonna take advantage of his family, and and they stepped in. Jake, have some form of compassion, and they stepped in and they stopped it, and they pretty much was like, hey, in other words, watch your back. You get a bullet to the back of the head. You fighting in front, but your people behind you, if they get an opportunity, they'll shoot you. So now you got Jake having to watch their front and their back because you know,
Wow.
yeah,
No,
He
I was
literally,
gonna say,
Jake literally just told me that, Barack. Go ahead, bro. Sorry.
that's the
yeah,
spirit.
no, I
That's
was
the
gonna say,
spirit.
I just saw a video with Snoop Dogg. One of his relatives was in the Vietnam War, and he said the average lifespan of a so-called black man in the Vietnam War was 16.4 seconds. And he said, six, how do you get that? He said, because as soon as they got off the plane or the helicopter, if they avoided the landmines, the white soldiers were shooting them from behind.
Yeah. So that, and again, it's coming out now. This is what our people, are now even today like still attaching themselves to. And we're finding again through the Spirit, the Lord is giving the secrets into His service, the prophets, to expose these very things. To show
Yeah,
you this is what they're doing in these military systems, and then of course, outside of this system, where we go back to never trusting thy enemy.
right.
You got it.
You know how much
And
hatred.
also,
It's
to
like,
open the scripture, open the scripture where it says, "Shame shall cover thee."
You got it,
That
Elder.
was it.
no, I'm just saying, you know how much hatred you have to have for a person to go to war against a whole nother people, and for you to fucking kill the person that's on your side.
Yeah,
That's some deep rooted hatred. That's
yep.
beyond that, bro. That's hate beyond hate. Like, damn, how nigga, I'm on
Uh,
your side, I'm on your team, and you sabotaging, you killing me because of
God.
just because of how I am. That's just that, bro. That's mind blowing, bro. Here it is now. Now I gotta not only got I gotta fucking worry about the enemy that we're fighting currently, but now I gotta look. Now I gotta look. Make sure that you ain't sabotaging me. You ain't fucking with me. You know, because I know however it comes, if I die by them, I get honored. But if I die by you, shit, fucking you, I know I ain't gonna get no justice. Oh, he was in the line of my bullet. He jumped in front of me at the last second. I mean, you can make any type of excuse back then. Or even
Yep.
still today. Oh shit, I didn't see him. Or whatever. Oh, that's all I want to say. But I was just like, man, that's hate right there. That's true hatred. You got it.
Yeah.
Well,
Anybody got anything else?
you go ahead and close it out.
All right. So with
Verse
that,
18, Obadiah.
oh,
Oh,
Slock, go ahead.
go ahead,
Go
bro.
ahead.
Yeah, just bringing it back to that Obadiah. Back in Obadiah 1 and 18, it says, "In the house of Jacob shall be a fire, in the house of Joseph a flame, the house of Esau for stubble. They shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai had spoken it." See, so as we say from time to time, everything that we've gone over so far in this camp series, hey, there's a lot of things out there that we don't know. Okay, but this all serves as a testament to why the Lord is heavily judging Esau, even the so-called white man. And for everything that this devil has done unto us, this is the ultimate judgment that the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is going to bring upon him, his nation. And that what ultimately as a nation they be wiped out forever.
Uh,
I got to preach it. This is because even though it was a long time ago, the Lord's still going to require it. I'm going to read it right here. This is Ecclesiastes 3 and 15. It says, "That which had been is now, and that which is to be had already been. And the Heavenly Father required that which is past." So And the whole invasion of America, uh, putting us all in slavery, and all the atrocities done to us in this kingdom, doing the Romans, the Greeks, the Babylonians, when you scared, everything is going to be required, man. That's why. This is why we that know the scriptures, us knowing how the Lord going to put our enemies under us in the kingdom of heaven. Like to this day, you got a lot of our people think the kingdom of heaven is for everybody. The kingdom of heaven, everybody going to be in it as far as the nations, but some one people going to be ruling.
Con,
Because what the Lord going to give us that payback, bro. I'm among the northern tribes, but like even though I'm around in the northern tribes, I'll be vexed at them because they love these goddamn devils, or they
yeah,
like them. Just if they like them, I'll be mad. I was looking at, man, I can't even say too much, I ain't on, but man, one time, I know ago, something just happened. And this cracker just saying what he want to say. A young little Israelite, he was vexed. And I'm vexed with him, like, man, but it ain't my place to say nothing. It ain't my crib. But I was just like, man, I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? Because it was my place or my family's place. I would put their ass out. That's how much hatred I got from these motherfuckers. You know what I mean? But hey, man, the Lord gonna require that which pass in the kingdom. These chicks that like and love these crackers, they've been in their right mind. They up. They'll be beating shit out of them in the kingdom.
con. What was the scripture again?
Ecclesiastes 3:15.
3:15. Okay. I wanted to back you up on that with Second Ezra 14 and 35. And it reads, "For after death shall the judgment come, when we shall live again." Meaning that you coming back with that judgment. This guy in this, he was never held accountable for that, and it was a lie. All right. It says, "Then shall the names of the righteous be manifest, and the works of the ungodly shall be declared." So you're gonna have to give an account for Esau is going to have to give a heavy account for his for what he's done to us in that day of judgment. All right,
Kyle, you're gonna close us out.
all right, all right. So with that, we hope this lesson was edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. Once again, we're going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Hashem, Hashem, Ram Takwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and our fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like it to the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners, and you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, we say Shalom,
Shalom.
Shalom.
Kwam Yasharala,
That's wrong.
Well, mashallah.
and Ababa Ball.
Ababa Ball.
We got next. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.